we covered the design of heat exchangers for a single phase flow. Okay. So now we can go with this heat exchangers with phase change conditions. Okay. So here we have starting the discussion for from condensation, because in this case we will discuss mostly on condensers and reboilers. Okay. So here condenser design is almost similar to the design of cylinder heat exchangers, what we have discussed for heat transfer without phase change. The same thing, almost same, except a few things. Okay, like the estimation of heat transfer coefficient. Only that is the part, and with respect to layout, we have to give some changes like baffle spacing or nozzle design, inlet and inlet nozzle design, those things. Anyway, during the different components of cylinder heat exchanger, I have given inputs regarding this baffle spacing and nozzle design for heat transfer with phase change conditions. Okay. So, have you studied this condensation and boiling phenomena in your heat transfer subject? Have you touched upon those things?
Yes, sir.
Hello. So you know how you can you will get the heat transfer coefficient estimation for condensation, correct? So what are the things you have studied in condensation, in heat transfer? Can I get some input from your side? What are all the parts that you have discussed in condensation?
So film wise and drop wise condensation theory.
Oh, that is types of condensation you discussed. Okay, okay. So actually, what is condensation?
Phase change, sir.
Phase change. From which phase to which phase?
From vapor to liquid.
Vapor liquid. How this phenomena takes place?
Sir,
So you have, let's take saturated vapor. What is saturated vapor? What is saturated vapor?
vapor that
So
exists at saturated conditions.
now what are the saturated conditions? How do you
At
define
boiling
this?
point, pressure at vapor pressure at boiling point.
Okay, correct. Then the vapor at its boiling point is called saturated vapor. And this temperature is called saturation temperature. The corresponding pressure is called saturation pressure. Correct? These are all the things. Am I correct? Any change?
No, sir.
Okay. So how will you differentiate this film-wise condensation and drop-wise condensation? I mean,
Sir, in film wise condensation, a film is formed over the surface, whereas the wetness
okay.
in is not that good in drop wise, so drops are not stable enough to form a film.
So the affinity of these droplets over the surface is minimum, correct? So it
Yes, sir.
will whenever the droplets form over the surface due to the temperature difference between the wall and vapor temperature, correct? So this is the driving force. When the driving force for this case is wall temperature and the temperature of the vapor. Okay. So because of this, what happens? The vapor gives energy to the wall, and here ideal case we are thinking that, or we are assuming that only latent heat is being transferred. So the droplets will form over the surface. Because of less affinity over the surface, it will fall down. So the surface is continuously exposed to the hot vapor or saturated vapor. Okay. So what are all the other important points with respect to heat transfer coefficient in this case? Which case the heat transfer coefficient will be more?
Drop wise, sir.
Drop wise. What would be the reason? As I told, the surface is continuously exposed to the vapor, because the liquid droplet forms over the surface, falling down because of less affinity. So we have a more heat transfer coefficient in this case. Okay, any example for a drop wise condensation? Example for drop wise condensation? The condensation of steam is film wise condensation or drop wise condensation? Condensation of steam over the surface is film wise condensation or a drop wise condensation?
Drop wise, sir.
Okay. So that's why we have the heat transfer coefficient of steam around 5000 or 6000 watt per meter square degree centigrade. Okay. So this is about condensation. Okay. So what is the basic equation to estimate the heat transfer coefficient in this case, condensation heat transfer coefficient? Any idea? Have you derived this Nusselt equation to estimate the heat transfer coefficient, condensation heat transfer coefficient for horizontal or vertical?
So we didn't derive any equation. We just saw the basic concepts.
Oh, okay.
So we were told to refer the heat and mass transfer data book for the equations. We didn't actually derive.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But even transport phenomena, you might have done, no? So very first problem in transport phenomena, whether it is cell balance method or using Navier-Stokes equation, what is the very simple example that you have taken, or very first example you have discussed in transport phenomena, momentum transfer or whatever maybe? Flow over inclined plane, correct?
Yes,
Flow
sir.
over inclined
Yes,
plane.
sir.
Okay. So this is also similar to that. You can equate these conditions. So the film is very small. The flow is laminar. So you will make so many assumptions, correct? In a cell balance method or Navier-Stokes equation, you will simplify the Navier-Stokes equation by giving so many assumptions, and you will convert into simple equation. Okay, you will assume one-dimensional flow. A flow is laminar flow. Okay, so the thickness of the film is very small. So the interaction between the liquid surface and vapor is negligible, which means there is no shear at the surface of the film. Okay, and what else? What other things you are making assumptions apart from this? So the flow is due to gravitation, correct?
Yes, sir.
So these are all things you will make. Then if it is heat transfer, then you have to include some of the terminologies or some of the assumptions related to this heat transfer mechanism. For example, you can say it's a pure saturated vapor, you can say, which means that it doesn't have any other components or other non-condensables. Okay, or you can say the delta T by delta X, or the temperature profile is linear, which means that the film thermal conductivity is constant, or you can take delta, you can define this film thickness delta is equal to H by K, correct? H by K, or watt per meter square degree centigrade divided by watt per meter. It is K by H, correct? Delta is equal to K by H. Your K is thermal conductivity, that's watt per meter degree centigrade. Your heat transfer coefficient H is watt per meter square degree centigrade. So 1 by m will give, so this is 1 by m will be meter. So delta film thickness will be in meters. Okay, and also you will neglect the buoyancy, then you will make a force balance, then you arrived the velocity profile, correct? In transport phenomena, you might have arrived the velocity profile V, correct? Then you know that m dot is equal to EV rho at steady state condition, that is the assumption. One dimensional flow, that is the assumption you are making. So m dot is equal to AV rho. So A is the cross sectional area. So you know the film thickness, and the width of the plate, you know, W into delta, that is cross sectional area for flow. Okay, then rho, you will assume all properties are constant. So it's the same thing you can apply this case. So density, or all properties are calculated at mean temperatures of your wall temperature and the vapor temperature. Okay, so that is at that temperature you can calculate the properties. Okay, once you know the mass flow rate, that is m dot is equal to AV rho, velocity profile you have to obtain from force balance equation, or you have you might have discussed in momentum tracker. If you supply, you will get m dot. Okay, then you have to go for energy balance equation. Even the same problem, you can solve this using transport phenomena, simultaneous momentum and heat transfer, or convective heat transfer, you can say, correct? The same problem you can solve in transport phenomena, the same conditions you can take. Then what you should do, you have to make energy balance. Okay, first we are doing force balance, then we are arriving the velocity profile, then you are applying this velocity profile in continuity equation. It is m dot is equal to AV rho. So you will get the m dot or dm dot, whatever may be. Okay, so m dot you know, then q is equal to m lambda. Here you can assume that only latent it is being transferred. Okay, so then you do the energy balance equation and find out the value of heat transfer coefficient H. That's the idea, it will go like that. Okay, so once you did this, you can get the equation, design equation to calculate the value of heat transfer coefficient. That is available in your heat and mass transfer data book. Okay, so I share the slide, you will get the idea. Okay, so here this slide talks about condensation. So we discussed two different condensation. One is film-based condensation, another one is drop-based condensation. So by seeing this figure, you will get the idea how what is the difference between film-based condensation and drop-based condensation. So here you have a vapors. Okay, you have vapors. So here you have. Okay, so this is two different types of things. So liquid droplets will form and it will fall from the surface. Okay, so the surface is continuously exposed to vapor. That's why you will get the maximum heat transfer coefficient in these cases. Okay, so with respect to this, I come to this point. Later we will go the slides. So film-based condensation on vertical plate. This is the things whatever we have discussed. So this is the Nusselt theory of laminar film condensation. Okay, so according to Nusselt, it is considered that the condensate liquid forms a continuous film on the surface. It's a continuous film. Okay, so thickness varying with the flow direction. Heat flow rate is determined by thermal resistance of this film. So this is the only resistance being offered. Okay, so here the Nusselt made so many assumptions. Whatever I said, liquid film flows smoothly and steadily by gravitational force. The liquid film is in laminar flow. no non-condensable gases, no vapor shear forces acting on this interface here at this point. Okay, then the temperature distribution is linear, so that's why it's mentioned like this. Okay, it's a linear one. It's not a curve one. Okay, Ts minus T. So here you can define the resistance as like Fourier's law of heat conduction. You will assume the profile is linear, correct? So you know Q by A is minus K dt by dx. So y equal to mx. This means this is the slope m. Okay, that's linear. Okay, so K is constant. The same thing is being assumed here. The only heat transferred across the film, liquid film, is the latent heat of condensation released at the liquid vapor interface, this portion. Okay, the transfer of sensible heat is negligible, which means that your vapor is saturated vapor. Otherwise, what will happen? The vapor may be superheated vapor, which contains both latent heat and sensible heat. Okay, the temperature of the liquid vapor interface is equal to the saturation temperature. Okay, so physical properties of the films are constant. These are all the assumptions they made for simplifying the problem. If you don't assume these things, then what will happen? Your prediction will not be accurate based on the equation developed due to from first principles. Okay, so then so these are all the things that is being made. This length of the plate is L. This is the vertical plate, not tube. Because when we go for a heat exchanger, then this equation has to be tuned accordingly for tubes. So since this case is simple for a flat flow or a flat plate, so we have taken these things and these mathematical representations are tuned for flow through a pipe. Okay, so here Tw is the plate temperature, T is the interface temperature. Here they assumed unit plate width. Okay, then delta B the film thickness at Z. Okay, at Z, this at this point Z, but Z delta is varying. After some time, this becomes constant. So this is your velocity profile. Okay, it's like lamina, parabolic, off parabolic. Okay, so then you have to take a control element. Over the control element, you have to make a force balance. Okay, buoyancy force you can neglect. So the resistance to flow is equal to, you can make by gravitational. So this is the shear force acting on the right. So these things I don't want to explain. Okay, so I hope from transport phenomena, okay, we will get this point. So finally, we will get this equation, correct? Then this is the velocity profile. You have to integrate this. This is double integration. So you will get two constants. To solve these two constants, you have to use two boundary conditions. Okay, so boundary condition 1 and boundary condition 2. You have to give two boundary conditions and solve for C1 and C2. Then substitute, you will get the velocity profile. Rho gx or rho square gx by mu, that would be the formula. Rho g del square by mu. Rho g del square by mu. Okay. Then they are making this continuity equation over the control element. dm is equal to a, this is the cross-sectional area, velocity into rho, a v rho. So if you substitute the velocity profile, because our velocity changes with respect to x, you can apply here and find out the dm. This is m. M dot is equal to a v rho. Okay, so a v rho. A v. Okay, you can tune this. You will get the equation. Okay, so this delta q by 3 mu. Okay, so here you have everything. So this velocity profile, substitute here, integrate, you will get this equation. Hope you might have got the similar equation in your transport phenomena also. Okay, then you have to do the energy balance. Okay, so here the heat is, released by the saturated vapor is latent heat. So that's why Q is equal to m lambda. Okay, so this heat is being transferred. So rate of heat released due to condensation of mass dm is equal to rate of heat conducted through film z. This is the your film delta. Okay, so then this is the energy balance equation. Then once you solve, you can get the value of delta. So finding delta is difficult here. Okay, the same. Okay, so once you know delta, here you can calculate the value of heat transfer coefficient H, because here you have delta now, so delta is unknown, so you can find out the value of delta and substitute delta here, then you can calculate the value of K is Hz. So this power is very, very important. Some books they represent using 1/3, but you have to see the value of K. Okay, so here Hz is equal to K rho square G lambda by 4K Ts minus Tw mu Z. Okay, so this K you can combine. So that's why it comes K3. Here they have eliminated K. So one more issue is that we don't know here this estimation of this temperature is again the problem. Okay, so we can tune this equation further to represent in terms of known things. Okay, so K is known, lambda is known, rho is known, this Ts minus Tw is a bit difficult, so it has to be changed. Okay, so then accordingly this can be modified. Okay, so and also we can how this is represented in terms of lambda. Okay, for example, if you see lambda by delta T you can represent in terms of heat transfer coefficient, lambda by delta T, because delta T is unknown here in this case. So you can replace this is m lambda is equal to HA delta T. Okay, so this A can be pi d naught L into number of tubes that you can use. That representation you can use and you can modify the equation. So you will get this similar type of equation. And one more problem is that this rho L square. So this rho L minus rho V, because here the problem is that we can include the buoyancy, because previously he had rho square, no? So this rho square is modified like this. So we are accounting the buoyancy also. Okay, so delta T across the film is unknown, so you can calculate the heat transfer. This equation is modified like this. Okay, so now you see the power is 1/4, here power is 1/3. So this is the equation to estimate outside the horizontal tube, flow over tube. Now what we have done, we have modified this L in terms of D. Okay, so L is converted into D and we have included the value N when this equation is modified for flow over a plate to flow through a flow over a circular tube. Okay, so this here what will happen, this tau, this condensate loading tau, normally they will define tau, that is condensate by L into NT or kg per meter, kg per second per this is kg per second, no, per unit length L. This is for n number of tubes. If you have n number of tubes, you have to get, that is condensate tube, condensate loading per unit linear length per tube. Likewise you can calculate. So we will get the equation like this. So this is the rough idea how you get the heat transfer coefficient value. Okay. So now this equation has to be modified for different cases, because in condensation we have 4 different things. So configurations are different configurations are possible in this case. So you can go for horizontal condenser with condensation in the cell. So you have 2 configuration. Okay, one is horizontal one, another one is vertical condenser. Okay, so condenser is horizontal condenser and vertical condenser. So here you have 2 terms. The condensation may take place in cell side or tube side. So horizontal cell side condensation, horizontal tube side condensation. This is one, two different things. Then horizontal vertical cell side condensation and horizontal vertical tube side condensation. So four different things are possible. So most of the cases we prefer horizontal cell side and vertical tube side. The reason is that the heat transfer coefficient should be better. So horizontal cell side condensation means its flow over the tubes. Okay, so you have the cell side condensation. So this is cell, your tubes are arranged like this, correct? So when condensate forms over the surface, what will happen? So this condensate formed over the surface will move to the next layer immediately. So the surface exposed to the saturated vapor is more, so you will get better heat transfer coefficient. Okay, but in the case of vertical tube side, so here you have, so condensate will form and it will flow due to gravity. So it's like a post convection, it will move very fast. Okay, so vertical tube side will give more heat transfer coefficient. That would be the reason. Okay, but other case horizontal tube side means what will happen? So the condensate will form over the surface, so it's look like a laminar flow. So it won't give a better heat transfer coefficient, and over the period what will happen? Initially it will be a saturated vapor, then when entering, when it leaves from the tube, what will happen? It may be saturated liquid or mixture of liquid and vapor. Okay, here it would be vapor, then condensate will form. So different flow regimes you can observe when it flows horizontally. Okay, similarly this case, vertical outside the tube. Okay, condensation in cell side, vertical cell side. Okay, then again it will form over the surface, so it will flow like due to gravity. Okay, so what happens? It will increase the resistance. It will form a film over the surface. If the film thickness increases, the heat transfer coefficient will come down. Okay, so most of the times this horizontal cell side and vertical tube side are preferred. That would be the idea. Okay, so accordingly you have to select the orientation. So most of the cases we will go for these things, horizontal cell side and vertical tube side. How this equation is being modified? So first we discussed about flow over a plate. Then this was modified for tubes. Okay, for one single tube. Then it can be extended for a series of tube rows. So this is the ideal case. If you see, this is the ideal case. So this is your tube wall. So this is horizontal condensation over the tube, or you can say cell side. Okay. So when condensate film forms over the surface, actually it should move like this, one over another tube. But practically not this is the case, because your vapor is flowing this side. So the ripples are formed, you will get uneven surface, and also the condensate is continuously moving over the surface. So this vapor flow will carry some liquid droplets. Okay. So we are in the position to correct these things. Okay. So if you see this equation, this Hc is equal to 0.954 KL rho L square Lg Nt by mu L power 1 by 3. This is the equation. So I repeatedly saying this power, this 1 by 4 and 1 by 3, they are different. You have to be very careful when you use these two. These both the equations can be used, okay, but you have to take care of the power 1 by 3 or 1 by 4. Okay, so this value is corrected by number of tube rows in vertical row. Number of tubes in the vertical row is to be corrected. Nr power minus 1 by 6. So this Nr is approximately 0.78 times of ds by pt. Okay, so 0.78 times. Nr can be calculated like this: 0.78 times ds by pt. Okay, so ds is cell diameter, pt is vertical tube pitch. So you know this pt is pt dash for square pitch, and 0.87 times of pt for triangular pitch. Those things you will apply, you know already. Okay. Now this is the correction factor introduced for series of tubes. Okay, so condensation inside the horizontal tube. So as I said, initially it would be a vapor, at the end it would be a liquid. Such cases, what will happen? Different flow regimes are being observed. Okay, because initially it vapor, no, so no liquid droplets. So no liquid droplets. So due to condensation, what will happen? Small liquid droplets will form. So why it is called annular flow? So annular flow means liquid condensate will stick on the surface. Your vapor will flow at the center of the tube. It's like a hollow tube. That's why it's called annular flow. And over the period, what will happen? These liquid droplets will small liquid droplets will join together. Coalescence, you can say coalescence, that's the terminology. Coalescence of liquid droplets takes place, and the small liquid droplets are converted into bigger one. Okay, here you can say these things as like distributed bubble flow or distributed bubble flow. Bubble flow means the bubbles will be random in size. Okay, bigger one, smaller one, everything will be there. All sizes will be there. Once the bubble size are uniform, because these bubble size are again function of your liquid velocity, gas velocity, or vapor velocity, then physical properties, dimensions of this. So many things are there. Okay, so this once you increase the liquid flow rate, what will happen? This bigger liquid drop, bigger liquid drops are converted into smaller liquid droplets. Two-phase flow. It's like a two-phase flow. Okay. Okay, so this transition you have to identify what is bubble flow, what is distributed bubble flow, those things. Okay, so sometimes what happen? All these liquid droplets will coalesce and form a very big slugs. Such a cases, one slug represents gas, vapor phase, another slug will represent the liquid. So alternatively, it may flow. Okay, so when the tube length increases, what will happen? So initially it's a saturated vapor, then the condensate is forms. Okay, then what happens? You will get a slug flow. Then this slug again. Now what will happen? The liquid will occupy more space in the tube than these conditions, inlet conditions. So at the inlet here, it's fully occupied by the vapor. Then small portions are occupied by these liquid droplets. So here they will call it as fold up. They will define it as fold up. Fold up of vapor or fold up of liquid, like this. So in two-phase flow, you can say a gas fold up plus liquid fold up is equal to 1. So you know what is fold up definition. Okay, this is volume of gas divided by total volume of the column. This is volume of liquid divided by total volume of the column. So volume of liquid plus volume of gas is equal to total volume of the column. So this would be the equation. Okay, so here it's epsilon G will be 1, which means that saturated vapor only we have vapor. Here it would be epsilon L becomes approximately 1. Your epsilon G is close to 0. Okay, so these slugs, you have liquid slugs and vapor slugs. So if the liquid content increases, liquid hold up increases over the length, the slugs are again broken like this. Okay, then finally what will happen? You may get mist flow also. Okay, so these are different flow that you can observe during two-phase flow through tubes. Finally, you will get saturated. Okay. So this annular flow normally happens at high vapor and low condensate flow rates, and except especially for this case. Okay, so this is stratified flow, which means that most of the pores are occupied by the liquid droplets. Normally, this is happening at low condensate and vapor flow rates. Okay, so annular flow means it's like you can know double pipe heat exchange. Okay, so you have a vapor space, then liquid space, then you have a tube wall. Okay, So these cases you have to modify the equations for different flow regimes. Okay. So anyway, at this point we are not complicating the design equations. So just we can we should know that the flow regime has greater impact on your heat transfer coefficient. The flow regimes vary with these conditions, your flow rates, vapor flow rates and liquid flow rates, those things. Okay. So the equation can be modified, or this is the one equation proposed by Boyko and Crosling, okay, to estimate the heat transfer coefficient. They proposed a simple equation, that is HBK. This BK represents Boyko and Crosling. Okay, this HI dash is the heat transfer coefficient, normally measured based on inlet conditions and outlet. So this is single phase. Okay, then this HI dash is corrected by this J value, J power J1 power of plus J2 power of by 2, where J is represented by 1 plus OL minus OV into X, where X is the vapor quality. Even if you refer steam tables, you can get this value, steam quality or vapor quality, which means that mass of vapor per mass of total mass. Okay, so if vapor quality is 1 means it's completely vapor, no liquid things are there, or you can say MV divided by MV plus ML, like that you can define vapor quality, mass of vapor divided by total mass. Okay, so if ML comes down, this becomes 1. If ML increases, MV comes down, your vapor quality comes down, which is mostly it is with liquid. Okay, so what they do, what they did, they calculated the J value or vapor quality at inlet and outlet conditions. Accordingly, these equations are modified, because these properties ρl and ρv are calculated. We know at the temperature conditions. Then this J value at inlet and outlet are find out. Then average root of J is taken and it is being calculated. Okay. Similarly, for stratified flow, I think there won't be any change in the equation. Directly, we can use this equation for stratified flow. 0.763 KL, rho L square. L is the tube length, G is gravity, NT is number of tubes, mu L is viscosity of condensate, M is the condensate loading. Okay, like this we can calculate. Similarly, for condensation inside and outside vertical tubes, so HC is like this, 0.943 K cube rho square lambda G by L mu L delta T, okay, to the power 1 by 4. So this is for vertical tubes. This is slightly modified. Okay, so for tube bundle, you have to, this condensate loading tau, you can modify. How, what is tau, how it is being represented tau, that is M by, you can say M by L and T. This is condensate loading, tau is equal to M by L into NT. I said no, this is kg per second, this is per unit M, this is number of tubes, kg meter second, like this you can calculate. Okay, so the equation is now simplified. Rho L is replaced by rho L minus rho L into rho L minus G, where G is like it is, this L by NT, this condensate loading, denominator. So you can use this equation also. Okay. So here for inside and outside vertical tubes, the condensate loading is different. Okay. So previous case it's L, because horizontal one, no. So we talks about the length it is passing through. Okay. But this case, the vertical, we have to talk about inside and outside. So the condensating loading is different for horizontal tubes and vertical tubes. So vertical tube WC NT by pi d naught. When condensation takes place outside the tube, this is WC by NT pi di when condensation takes place inside. Okay. So these are all design equations that can be used. So the design procedure is almost same. Okay. So this is the design procedure we have discussed for solenoid heat exchanger, correct? So first we will design the duty, then we will calculate the heat transfer rate, flow rates, temperatures. Then we will find out the physical properties. at the different average temperature, that you know calorific temperature, also you know how to calculate the calorific temperature, for which case you have to calculate the calorific temperature to find out the properties, physical properties. Then you have to take the exchanger, type of exchanger, whether it is fixed tube seat, pull through type or loop tube, those things. Then you have to select the trial value of U, then delta Tm of U. So with respect to delta Tm, this case we will discuss later. Then you can calculate. So Q you can calculate, A you can calculate. Once you know the A, you can find out the heat exchanger layout based on the value of A. Then calculate. Then this IC has to be validated using estimating the individual film coefficient. Okay. So if the condensation takes place in only one side, you can use this equation based on the orientation: horizontal cell side or horizontal tube side, vertical cell side or vertical tube side. Okay. So vertical means you have to check this condition, flooding. So you might have studied in mass transfer what is flooding, because what will happen if condensate loading is more, then it will stored in the pipe. Then such a cases what will happen? So here it's partially occupied by vapor, partially occupied by the condensate. Or sometimes what will happen? If this is the tube, here your condensate due to here your liquid will be there, here your vapor will be there, here liquid will be there. Or your vapor will be at the bottom, liquid is accumulated over the things because of this hammering. Okay, so the cavity formation, these things you might have studied. No? So so such a cases you can calculate this value flooding in vertical tubes, that is UV power of rho V power 1 by 4 and UL square. This you have to calculate, LHS and RHS you have to calculate, and you have to check. If this condition is satisfied, you can say there is no flooding. Okay, so UV is the vapor velocity, which means that when the vapor flows through the tube alone, only vapor. Okay, so this UL is liquid velocity. The condition is that only liquid is flowing through the tube. So these are all the properties. Then G is your gravitational, dA is dI, rho L and rho V are density difference between liquid and vapor. Okay, so once this condition is satisfied, you can. Otherwise, for example, this case. So up to now we have discussed about only we are handling saturated vapor. Okay, so if you handle de-superheating or superheated vapor or subcooled things, then what would be the temperature profile? You can see. So here you have a temperature. This is heat is transferred. Okay, so this is your cooling fluid, cold utility. It goes like this. So what happens initially? This latent here the sensible heat is being transferred. So the superheated vapor first becomes a saturated vapor, then only latent heat is being transferred at constant temperature condition. Okay. Then this saturated vapor condense. So you will get the subcooling zone. So you have three different zones here: the superheating zone, condensation zone, and subcooling zone. The temperature profile will be like this. So these cases, what you should do, you have to split the heat exchanger. This portion is one portion, this is one portion, this is one portion. But all the three things are taking place in single exchanger. Okay. So the total heat transfer area A is ADS, the superheat area required for de-superheating, area required for condensation, area required for subcooling. So QDS divided by UDS delta T Lm dS. Okay. Similarly, QCN condensation zone, UCN delta T Lm CN. Similarly, QSC, USC, like this. So each zone wise you have to carry out the calculation. Or sometimes what will happen, you may experience only these two zones, de-superheating zones and condensation zone. Then the equation is simplified like this. Or sometimes you may have condensation zone and subcooling zone, then such a case is like this. Okay. So these cases, what you should do, you have to, this is the total length of the exchanger, correct? So corresponding L has to be calculated. So total A is known. So ACN by A, then total tube length will give the length required for this condensation zone. Similarly, you can calculate the length required for remaining length is de-superheating. So this is here the number of tubes. Otherwise, you can calculate the number of tubes also. Okay. So NTCN condensation is ACN by A. This is AC, you can say CN. Okay. So this NTCN is equal to ACN by A into number of tubes. Like this you can calculate. Okay. So these are some simple idea. Okay, when we experience both condensation and subcooling. Okay. So this is some other thing. As I told, desuperheating in a horizontal condenser. Okay, so this would be the temperature profile in your case. This is the desuperheating zone. This is the condensation zone. Okay, so this L can be calculated whatever we discussed earlier. Okay, so this is QDS, this is QCN. So these cases, what will happen? So here the temperature profile will be like this. If it is a vertical condenser, normally you have to maintain minimum amount of liquid in the exchanger. Similarly for horizontal condenser also, if you need subcooled condensate, then you have to maintain minimum amount of liquid. So you have to provide this type of arrangement. What is these arrangements? They are called loop seal arrangement. So loop seal arrangement has to be provided in the exchanger to maintain the liquid level in the exchanger. Okay, so condensation and with subcooling will take place. So this is your temperature condition, TH1, TH2, cell side feed, then tube side feed, TC1, TC2. Okay. Otherwise, you can use these type of baffles, dam baffles. So you can maintain minimum amount of liquid in the condenser, in the heat exchanger. This is the height of the liquid that you can maintain. Okay. So these are all some arrangements that you have to provide. Apart from that, as I said, the baffle spacing normally these cases, especially in condensation, the baffle spacing will be equal to 1 time of diameter cell. Maximum baffle spacing you have to provide. Okay, maximum baffle spacing LB is equal to DS. Okay, normally you will provide 0.2 to 0.5 times of diameter of the cell will be the baffle spacing. But heat transfer with phase change, the purpose of baffles is only to support the tubes, not to increase the turbulence. Because of this, the heat transfer coefficient will not increase. Okay, that's the idea. So the baffle spacing, the baffles normally provided only to support the tubes. Okay, sometimes if there is subcooling in the exchanger, then this will help to retain the required amount of liquid in the exchanger. Then only the subcooling takes place. If you remove the condensate continuously, what will happen? No condensate will be allowed inside the no condensate will be inside the exchanger. So the condensate is being removed continuously from the exchanger. This case like this. Okay. So that's why here if you see this the setup, heat exchanger setup, you have any loop seal arrangement in this case. So only desuperheating zone and condensation. If you provide the loop seal arrangement zone, then you will experience this subcooling zone arrangement. Okay. So these are all the things, some important things that you should know when you design the condenser. Okay. So today we have discussed about 4 different positions. That is horizontal cell side, vertical tube side. That's mostly preferable. Apart from that, we have a horizontal tube side and vertical cell side. The limitations of each things you should know. So that's why we are selecting horizontal cell side and vertical tube side. So the rate equations, or you can say the design equations, are to estimate the heat transfer coefficient of condensate, whether it is horizontal or vertical. So how it is being derived by considering the simple case like flow over a plate, then how it is modified for the case flow through a tube or over the tube. Okay. Then you can see if there is with phase change so desuperheating and subcooling is accommodated with the condensation, then how the estimation of area can be done. The exchanger has to be divided into different parts like desuperating zones, condensation zone, and subcooling zone. So zone wise we have to do the calculation procedure. Okay, so because these desuperating zones will be like a cylinder bit exchanger without phase change. Similarly, the subcooling zone again heat transfer without phase change. Only the phase change occurs in condensation. So accordingly, we have to modify the design equations. Okay, you can use a Siderite equation for the desuperating zone and subcooling zone, and you have to use the Nusselt equation to calculate the heat transfer coefficient of condensate different configurations. Okay. So up to this, at this point, I would like to stop. If you have any doubts, please ask. So we will continue our discussion tomorrow. Do you have any doubts?
No doubt, sir.
So Ansi, can I get one more class tomorrow?
Sir, tomorrow, sir. Okay, sir. I'll check and I'll tell you, sir.
Oh, check and inform me. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. But preferably you can give me a morning slot because this convocation work also parallelly going.